and welcome back to Brightman Design Studio. I'm thrilled you could join us today. Glad to have you. I'm Mike Brightman. I design homes in Denver, Colorado using SketchUp Pro and Layout. And on this channel, I share all the tips and tricks that I learned from real design projects. So please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. Today, we're going to be talking about scenes for designers, specifically for interior designers and architects. Those are the people that I work with the most. That's the field that I'm in. That's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So first things first, let's hop in there and just take a look at a SketchUp model that I've created. I've shared on the 3D warehouse. I have a full set of drawings, and that's the model that we're going to use to demonstrate all of the different complexities of scenes, whether it's matching properties between scenes, creating scenes, naming scenes, organizing, finding, updating scenes, that's a big one, properties to save. I am going to cover every single corner of scenes that I can possibly think of in this 1 hour live stream. So I'm going to move fast, it's advanced, there's going to be a recording, of course. You can just rewatch whatever you like, and let me know in the comments. I've got you guys up on this screen, so as I'm turning around talking to the camera, I'll be checking in. John, nice to see you in Clearwater. Claude, for sure, and Scappa from Georgia, please hit me up on the chats. Let me know if you guys have questions about what I'm doing, and I'll do my best to pepper those in and answer the questions. So first things first, let's hop into SketchUp. Let's grab that ADU design model. Let me show you this project that I've created here in Denver. Unfortunately, it didn't get built, but luckily I did create the full drawing packet, and I'm going to share that with you. Let's get to it. All right, so here we are inside of SketchUp. I'm going to go to the window drop down, go to the 3D warehouse, and check it out. I've already searched this out today when I was kind of prepping a few things earlier, but I'll tell you what, if you go to the home page of the 3D warehouse and just scroll down a touch, you'll find that we have the Condoc Tools collection on the 3D warehouse, and that's where I put all of my projects. I'm actually willing to share anything I create, but this is an ADU project I created here in Denver. We can click see more details. Like I said, this one did not get built, but still a really cool project, and we took it all the way into the permit set, we'll call it. All right, so I will, and I'll also call out too that a little bit lower down here, if you click see more, there's a link here. So if you click this link, that is where you can grab the entire set of drawings. All right, so we're not going to work with that right now, but I just want to make sure you see that because it's kind of hidden. You have to hit see more, and that's the link. I'm going to click download, and I'm going to load this model directly into my SketchUp model. All right, so let's just take a look. Let's get the lay of the land here and just kind of understand what's going on with this model, because I want to make it like really transparent. You know, first off, what we're doing here is this model's already been layered. It's layered by my level element location condition system. Definitely got some other videos on that, but I just want to make it clear that like this is a completed project, and we're going to be, you know, working with something that's pretty well organized. But that's handy for demonstrating scenes. So you can see like the level 1 tag or layer. I'm going to turn off my shadows while we're here. I'm going to go to view and turn off my shadows. Make things move a little bit quicker. Level 2 you can see, and then if I turn off my, say I turn off my walls, you know, windows, everything is all layered or tagged very meticulously using this level element location condition system. So I have 25 different elements that I typically use, and that's how this is set up. So what we need to do though to create some scenes really is we need to start working with some styles and get to our utility scenes. Let's talk about that. Okay, utility scenes are using scenes as a tool. It's going to expedite modeling, it's going to expedite scene creation, and what's really unique and actually honestly very advanced about utility scenes is we're going to turn off some of the properties to save. So we're going to kick things off with our utility scenes, not only because they're going to help us move through this quicker, faster, more efficiently, but also because it's a very clear demonstration of unchecking properties to save. So we're going to hop in there. We're going to create a design style first, because it's hard to talk about scenes without talking about styles. So a design style is going to be a really lightweight style where all my profiles and all my stroke and all the different settings that go into a style that kind of like bog things down, we're going to turn all those off within our style browser, create that design style, attach it to a design utility scene. I'm also going to create some layer states. Now this is like an old school CAD thing, you know, running those layer states. I'm going to create an interior, exterior, and then an all on and an all off layer state. Let's do it. Utility scenes. Okay, so first things first, let's hop in here and check out our styles. So on our styles, if I go to the Select tab, and I'm going to get out of our conduct tools, we're not going to need that right now. On the styles, you can see that there's only this one like default construction documentation style. I'm just using like SketchUp's default template, all right? So I'm not really, this is like just kind of starting from scratch so we can really understand how this all works. I'm just going to rename this. I really don't like it to be called that. I like it to be called design, all right? And then I'm also going to just get rid of that description, and then I will click on this update. Whenever you do anything to a style, you always need to update it to lock in those changes. And update, essentially that's like save. All right. So now let's expand this out. Let's go to our Edit tab. So on our Styles browser within the Edit tab, I'm editing my design style. Let's work through these and talk about all the different settings that, well, basically all the settings that can like really bog you down in SketchUp. That's the point of this. First off, profiles. It's unnecessary. Also, I really don't want to show my dashes on the design style. We're going to work through each one of these different settings boxes here. So I only want to see my edges. On this box, I do want to have display shaded using textures. That's ideal. And also, let's see, then our material transparency, definitely want to see through there, but I really don't need it to be nicer. I need it to be faster. So we're looking good so far there. And then our background, personally, I like to work on like a nice clean white background. Watermarks, I suppose I could just turn those off. And then another important one would be our modeling settings. Now on the modeling settings for a design utility style, essentially is what I called them in my book, we want to have our guides turned on, our model axes turned on. It's easy to turn these things off, but also section cuts. And then section fill is probably not really necessary right now. All right, so I've made some changes to this design style. So let's go up here and just click on Update Style with Changes. This button, like whenever you see this little recycle, circle arrows, it's the same thing as pushing this, Update Style with Changes. And whenever you see those, that means that like something you changed is not saved to the style. Quick tip. All right, this is just a side note. If I go to View and I uncheck Guides, check this out. From my drop downs, I can actually modify the style. So beware that you don't have to be in the style browser to start messing with your style settings. If you want those settings to stick, you're going to need to update that style. But personally, I do want my guides turned on, so I'm going to make my design style hold on to those. All right. So now we've got our style set up. So let's hop over here to our scenes dialog. And now to make a scene, it's pretty simple. We're going to click the plus sign. And then we are going to highlight our scene name, and I'm going to call this design, like that. All right, so now whenever you add a scene to your SketchUp model, you get the scene tab at the top. It's possible that you have those turned off, so if you're not seeing your scene tabs, make sure that you go to that view drop down, turn on your scene tabs, and they will appear. All right, so what a scene does is basically, if I orbit around and click on this scene, bam, it brings me right back to where I was when I created that scene. Well, that's kind of how we'll frame it right now. And then we need to, one thing I really don't like is that animation. So let's get that turned off. I'm going to go to Window, Model Info. On the top, we have animation. Personally, I really do not like to see my scene transitions, so I'm just going to turn that off. And what that means is that now if I orbit around and go over here and then click the Design Scene tab, it bounces me right back to that same camera view. So what we need to do now is think about this design scene. Like, what properties do I want it to save? The truth is that I really don't want it to jump me back to that camera view. I really just want it to hold on to a select few properties. That's where our properties to save comes into play. This is where the first kind of point of confusion, where the water gets a little bit murky here, all right? So let's go to our properties to save. The truth is, I don't want to save my camera location. So now, as I orbit around and I click on Design, it's not going to jump back to a camera location. Now, I can tell you that 99% of the scenes that you create, you're going to want all these camera settings, and basically, by default, all the properties to save should be checked on. But for utility scenes, that's where we get in here and we turn some of these off. So keep in mind, 99% of the scenes that you're going to create when you're like snapshotting views and setting up, for drawings or for perspectives, you're going to want all of your properties to save checked on. For utility scenes, when we're being clever and also demonstrating what it means to save a property to a scene, we're going to uncheck some of them. Okay, top level hidden geometry. We probably don't need any of those. I don't want to mess with my tags. And I also, I think that we could save our active section planes. Definitely save our style. If we're not saving the style, it's not going to remember to get back to that design style. Definitely shadow settings, because I turned off my shadows to make sure that my screen is really snappy and SketchUp's moving fast. And my axes location, I think that that's a pretty reasonable property to save as well. I like to have that. I don't really move the axes all that much anyway. So that's going to be our Design Scene tab. This is going to be whenever we start working on some scenes and getting, making some different styles and shadows and different settings that start bogging things down, but we need it for our drawings. Well, when we want to get back to good, we just click Design. We'll get there. Now, let's create some layer state styles as well. So I'm going to go to my Scenes tab. I'm going to click Add Scene. And let's call this one, we'll just call it Interior, like that. All right, on the interior, I'm going to, and I say layer states, I guess I mean tag state. I can't get over calling these layers or tags, but I'm talking about tags. When I'm talking about layers and tags, they're synonymous. Okay, if we're gonna have an interior scene where I'm going to peel away the outside, I'm gonna wanna turn off the exterior layer, like that. So I wanna have a scene where I just click it and it's interior, and it's gonna get rid of all the stuff that's blocking me from seeing my interior, so that I can very easily work on my interior. All right, now check this out. If I go back and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I turned off that layer. Well, and then I click on interior, not good enough. Let's see, so that is going to save, I'm sorry, let me go down here to our scene. Here's the issue. The interior scene needs to hold on to our visible tags. And you can see that when I clicked it, it's not remembering it, all right? So now when I click on visible tags, also, I think I could probably leave definitely our camera location. I don't want this to jump around. I don't really want to mess with our hidden objects or geometry. I really don't want to mess with anything, to be honest, except for my visible tags, all right? So whenever I click on interior, it's going to jump to a layer state where, or a tag state where exterior is turned off. I'm going to add another scene here, and let me shrink this down to make it a little bit clearer. We'll click the plus sign. When I click the plus sign to add a scene, it duplicates the scene that I'm actually on. So now I can call this one exterior, like that. When I click on the exterior scene or utility scene, I do want my exterior to be turned on. All right, so we'll do that. So I'm going to go in, set my exterior on, my interior off. So this is what I was about to demonstrate. Watch what happens if I click exterior. Well, it didn't save. You know, it didn't hold on to that layer state or that tag state. And that's where a lot of frustration comes from, at least for me, when I was first learning this. I can remember just being like, why does this, like this unpredictable behavior, what the hell's going on? Well, it's because of when you're changing the states or the properties that you're attaching to your scenes, you need to update your scene to remember it. So now let's get into updating a scene. So when I click on exterior, I want to turn off my interior and turn on my exterior. So now what I need to do is update my exterior scene. Probably the most obvious way to do that is to click this Update Scene button. Now this is another little source of confusion. You've got your properties to save and you've got your properties to update. Now you can see that like we're started with this checklist here where everything's kind of matching our properties to save, because it doesn't matter, like we're not saving these properties, so why bother? All right, so then we'll just click update like that. Now check it out. I can click interior, I can click exterior. Then what we could also do if I wanted to kind of further further work on these different layer states. Let's say that I go to interior. Well, if I'm working on the interior, I'm probably not terribly concerned with my earth or my context, that's for sure. So we'll turn those tags off. The fence is on barriers, and I probably just kind of like didn't fully tag or layer that one, but that's probably closer to where I want to be when I click on interior, like that. All right, so now here's another way to update a scene. You can just right-click on the interior scene tab and then choose update. So by clicking that update button, if I just right-click and choose update, that's exactly the same thing as clicking update down here and updating that scene. All right, so now I can go to exterior, orbit around like that, and then I can go to interior and keep orbiting. Again, taking note that we are not jumping a camera view back and forth. All right, so that's the idea behind our layer states. Now, we could probably do we'll do two more. I'll add an all on, and these are all on, and then I'll add one called all off. And those are kind of handy. Again, coming from those CAD days where is it easier to get to the layers that you want by being additive or subtractive? So if it's easier to be additive, go to all off. If it's easier to be subtractive, go to all on and start chipping away at what you don't want. So now we need to set up our, let's say all on is probably the easiest. So I'm going to turn on our exterior earth element. I'll just turn everything on, like maybe that's really how I want it to be, where I just really see everything. So all my tags are turned on. I'm going to right click and update my all on utility scene. Keep it in mind, the only property we've attached to this scene is visible tags. Now I'll go to all off, and then I'm going to select this bottom layer tag, hold shift, and just click on the eyeballs, turn everything off. Now, I know for my system, I kind of like to have the 2D graphic, 3D object turned on. These are kind of like these, you actually, what would be kind of clever is to really just keep all of our kind of like secondary tags on and only mess with our elements. That would probably be a good way to do this, because otherwise we'd have to turn these on every time to see anything. So Let's go with yeah, visual merge we'll leave off. So 2D graphic, 3D object, really everything but the barriers is what I want to be on for this all off. So it's almost like an all element off layer state. I'll update this. So now we can go to all on or all off. And when you're on all off, if I only want to see my walls, then I could just turn on my walls and really isolate it down without having to jump around you know, too much in this tags panel. That's the idea. So all on, all off. I can do all on exterior, all on interior. So that's pretty slick to just have these utility scenes set up so that we can really get to the part of the model that we want to work on very quickly. Perfect. Now, okay, how are we doing so far? I'm just going to take a look at our chat panel as I turn around. Yeah, we got Tony, Jeffrey, yep, what's happening? Andres, Colombia, and Phoenix. Man, we got all people coming in from all over. This is great. I'm so glad to have you guys here, and I've said this before, I love doing these live. It gives me just a deadline, get this thing done, and then deliver it, and then we get to, you know, kind of chop it up, make it into some cool videos. So I guess I'll tell you again, you know, please subscribe and don't miss a thing that we're putting out. Okay, so next up, let's see, we're gonna talk about some perspectives, all right? So perspectives are the easiest scene to understand when it comes to drawings. A perspective scene is going to use a color style, and we're going to have pretty much most of our elements turned on. Definitely the earth, and you know, basically we just want to take a snapshot of our model without any of the admin type layers turned on. So let's hop in there and let's create some perspective scenes. We're gonna have our shadows turned on. We're gonna make some adjustments to our shadows. I'll probably just make like, let's see, we'll make maybe 2 perspectives and then talk about how to you know, adjust those shadows, update some scenes. This is gonna be good. Let's get to it. All right, so I'm gonna go to my all on scene tab. When I'm creating a perspective, the first thing that I think I want to do here will be to adjust my style. All right, so I'm going to go to my styles browser, and on the edit tab, I suppose, well, nothing's really showing up in our select because we only have one. So I'm just gonna duplicate this style. I'll create a new style, and I'm gonna name this one color, like that. All right, whenever you change the style, you always have to update it. So I could get through all of this and then update it, but I just kind of have this bit of a nervous tick of updating and saving. I do that all the time. All right, speaking of, I'm just gonna save this model to my desktop temp folder, and I'm just gonna name it ADU, like that. So just so we don't lose our work as we go along. Okay, so we're making a color style that we're going to use for our perspective. I'm on the edit tab. Let's start with our edge settings. When I'm creating a perspective, I like to have some depth to it, so I'll turn on my profiles. You could also use depth Q, but I don't know, that depth Q, I find it just doesn't really do exactly what I anticipate it's gonna do. So I'm gonna turn that off. You could even go with like extension. I think that that's kind of a cool look. So maybe a 2 on your profiles. Extensions, you know, they could be even longer, like a 5, that would be fine. Jitter, I haven't used that in 15 years. Color is definitely all the same, although you might consider on a color perspective, if you just knock down those edges just a notch, that could be kind of a cool look. All right, so we'll just make a few changes just so we can really see the difference between these. On our face settings, now that I'm creating a perspective, I definitely want this to have nicer transparency. You know, this scene that I'm about to create is not meant for me to be orbiting around and moving through quickly. It's really meant for me to be, to kind of snapshot, send it to layout, and kind of never go there again, to be honest. So definitely shaded using textures and material transparency nicer. We're in good shape there. The background, you could make an argument for a sky background. That blue is just a little bit dingy, so maybe I'll just kind of pull it this direction and say, okay, like that. That's fine. And I'll update it as I go. I'm always clicking that. Whenever I see those, I'm always updating that. All right, as far as watermarks, we're really not going to put any watermarks over this one. It's just kind of a simple SketchUp rendering. Now on our modeling settings of our style, this is where you wouldn't want to see your guides, that's for sure. You really wouldn't want to see your model axes, so I'll turn those off. And you would potentially want to see section cuts. You'd want to have the ability to see them if you were making like a section perspective. This could be kind of slick. And I suppose the section fill, I never really use that. We can turn it on for now. It doesn't matter because we're not making section perspectives today. All right, so there's my color style. When I go to select, you can see that now we have a color style and we have a design style. Let's get over into our tags, all right? And this is like a good point to make, is that the best way to create a scene is to work through all of these different settings and get your screen to look the way you want it to look. And when you add that scene, it snapshots the settings that are current. So when I'm creating a 3D perspective, I don't want my 2D graphic. Visual merge is meant to visually merge my model. So whenever there's a split, I can just kind of hide those seams. Always off. Hey, guess what? It's always off. And let's see, then our backgrounds, I do keep those turned off. That's where I put like my sketches and CAD backgrounds. Barriers, beams, columns, context, doors, fixtures, floors, foundation, you know, all this stuff I want on. Level 1, level 2, interior, exterior. Everything. That's everything that I would want to be on. All right. So I've made my screen look the way I want it to look. And so now I can go to my scenes and I'll just click on this last one and click the plus sign. All right. Now, when I created this scene, it duplicated the previous scene that I was on. And you can see that the previous scene that I was on did not have all the properties to save checked on. So it's really important to pay attention to that like all of these properties to save, they need to be checked on like that. All right. So now whenever I orbit around and click on this scene 6, it's going to jump back to those settings. So I'm going to call this one like perspective 01, like that. I hit enter, locks in the name. So now if I were to orbit around, if I were to go to exterior or interior maybe, if I were to go to my style and choose design, so I can kind of like work through my model. But now, no matter what I've done to my model, if I click on perspective, it's going to jump me back to those settings that are attached to the scene. And our perspective 01 scene is holding on to everything. One last setting that's going to be really important here is going to be our shadows. So I just open up my shadows. You can see under Window, Default Tray. That's where you bring up any of these different dialogues inside of SketchUp. On the Mac, I believe it's just, I forget, it's like just a window. There's no tray system on the Mac. So I'm going to turn on our shadows by clicking Show Hide Shadows. And then usually I start in like, if you go to June, that's going to be where you're going to get like the kind of the best idea of the widest array of shadows. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. And of course, I just like to pick some shadows that are going to make this look good. So pretty nice right there. Now here's the thing. I've changed the shadow settings. This scene is remembering that my shadows are turned off. So if I wanted to attach these shadow settings to my scene, I need to come down here to my scenes dialog and click the update properties. This is where the confusion comes in. it's almost never necessary once a scene is created to start unchecking properties to save. I see a lot of folks like kind of unsure and tinkering with the properties to save. 99% of the scenes that you create are going to have all the properties to save checked on. The only time you're going to start messing with these checkboxes is when you click on that update scene. So when I click this, I don't want to mess with anything else. I only want to mess with my shadow settings. So I'll click update. So now if I turn off my shadows and then orbit around and click perspective 1, it jumps back to that camera view. It remembers my shadow settings. It remembers all of my different like layer states. If I go to interior design like that, click on perspective 1, it jumps right back to where it was. Now, perspective 1 is going to be a scene that we would attach to a drawing in layout. So another tip with working with scenes is if I need to make a second perspective, we've already laid the groundwork on perspective 1. We've got our style, we've got shadows and layers or tags. Everything's kind of worked out. So let's just go to perspective 1 and then orbit over here, and I'll just kind of drop myself into the backyard, back up just a notch like that. And, good enough for right now. And then I'll just click the plus sign. So then I can name this perspective 02, enter, like that. Now I don't really love my shadows here. The shadows were kind of casting a nice look on the alley side, but on this side it doesn't look so hot. So let's just bring the sun around and find, where's the shadows going to look kind of cool over here. I dig it right there. Here's another way to update your scenes. This is a perfect example of using the right-click update on your scene tabs. Keep in mind that this right-click update is exactly the same as clicking the update in the scenes dialog and leaving all of the properties to update checked on. So if I had tinkered with layers or tags, or if I had tinkered with the setting or whatever it is, I wouldn't want to use this function. But because I started on the scene and let it be what it is, like all those settings, I left them alone, I can easily just right-click update. And I don't get that pop-up. I don't have to think about unchecking and checking. It's basically going to snapshot what I'm seeing on my screen. So now I've got like perspective 1 and I've got perspective 2, like that. So that is how we create some perspectives. Here we go. Let's check in on our our chat again. I like this setup where I kind of turn to the turn and check out here. We got Stephen Walsh taking an hour to sharpen. Nice, right from Boulder, right down the street. Good stuff. So what we're going to do next is create some sections. Now, to create section drawings in SketchUp, we need to have a CAD style output. That's the type of scene that I want to create for my section drawings. All right, so we're going to create another style and I name it CAD. And then we're going to drop a section cut through this house. We're going to have to mess with our tags, our style, our shadow settings, our active section cuts. We're layering on the complexity as we build up. So let's hop in there and let's create some section scenes that can easily be attached to layout drawings. There we go. So this is where our utility scenes really come into play. I don't want to have to go back in here and turn off my shadows and tinker with the different style, get it back to where I can work quickly. I just want to click design. And now I'm right back. I can already feel it. It's like the shadows are turned off and the extensions and the profiles, we jump to that different design style. So now it's just a much easier, faster working environment. All right, so first things first, I think it's kind of up for debate. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I guess I'd like to do it in the most clear way possible. So let's add a section cut, and then we are going to develop our CAD style. So we will set up our section cut. I think the first cut I'm going to do, it really doesn't matter because you can always change your mind. So I activate my section plane tool. I can either hold shift once I find an axis, or I can tap the left arrow key, and that will constrain me on left or right, or even the up arrow key will go with the blue. So my left arrow key is going to constrain me on the green axis, and I guess what I would hope is that like this might be an interesting section cut right there. All right, now you can see that I've got like a ton of section cuts that were already added to this model because that I actually have a full set of drawings that works on it. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to actually explode this one level. I'm going to right click explode because this came in as like a component. That's kind of what I did in that earlier part of the live stream here, the demonstration. Let's just get rid of all of those section planes. All right, and let's go back here and we're going to activate our section plane tool. I'll tap the left arrow key and I'm going to drop it right on this roof ridge, kind of hoping that I get something, of value there. That looks pretty good. Now, you can see that whenever you add a section plane, it automatically flips section plane visibility on. So that's kind of handy. So let's go with our mantra of like, we need to make our screen look the way we want it to look, and then we're going to add our scene. All right, so first things first, I'm going to right click on my section plane and I'm going to choose Align View. Then I'll just zoom in a bit. I'm going to go to Camera Parallel Projection to make sure that this is like a nice flat drawing that can be set to an architectural scale inside of layout. And now I need to start working on some of these other settings. Our shadows are turned off. That's a good thing. I don't want to see shadows in my sections. I might need to investigate my tags. When you're cutting a section, I definitely want my 3D object turned on. I don't want my 2D graphic. Always off, visual merge, background. Those are tags that I always turn off. And then aside from that, when it comes to a section, I wouldn't want so we're actually, I'm just a little short on tags, and that's good. But if I had something like our decorative objects, like a bunch of your furniture in here, I would turn that off in my section. It's actually a good comment to make that you don't have to use all the tags. You don't have to put furniture in, and you don't have to make it extremely detailed. You can actually model 3D model for drawings, and you're getting an understanding of the three-dimensionality of it, but you're not adding all that weight of furniture and all that extra detail. All right, so we'd want to go through here and just think about what we're doing. I think earth would be a good one to leave on. Fixtures would be on. Floors, roof, trim. I think trim would be turned on, yeah, definitely. So really, we pretty much need all these tags that we're seeing turned on in our section scene. So we're good on our tags, we're good on our shadows. I'm going to go to my styles, and I'm going to click on Create New Style. That's going to create a duplicate of this design style. I'm going to go to the Edit tab, and we're going to start, again, each time we'll start on our edge, our edge settings. And so, profiles should be a 2. Edges are turned on. I mean, always, you want a drawing, right? No depth queue, no extension on this, because this is more of like a CAD style, black and white CAD style output. So I'm going to rename this one as CAD, and forget the description. It's black and white drawings. So no extensions, endpoints, jitter, all the same, definitely all black, that's good. And then let's go to the next one. So this is where we'll start messing with some of these settings. So we want to use our hidden line mode like that. And let me deselect. I'm going to hit Control T. All right, so just so we can deselect that so we're not seeing that section plane lit up. Also keep in mind that I'm being careful not to orbit around. I've already set my view. I right click, align view, camera, parallel projection. I don't want to mess with any of that. So I want to get through this whole process, add my scene, and then I can start, orbiting around and thinking about what I just did. All right, so we're going to be using our hidden line mode. Our material transparency, we don't want to see that. So I don't want to be able to like look through a window and see beyond, just because that kind of like muddies up your drawings a bit. So no material transparency, hidden line, we're good there. No background, or white background, no sky, no ground, no watermarks. And then over here, we are gonna wanna turn off our guides. I have a pretty good habit of always deleting my guides, but I certainly wouldn't want my guides to show up in my drawings. Model axes, I definitely don't want those. This is really any time we're working with CAD, we're definitely gonna wanna see our section planes. We're definitely gonna wanna see our section cuts, but what we don't wanna see is our section plane. So we're gonna make those invisible, or turn those off. And then section fill could be an interesting thing to explore here. So I turned on my fill, and then you can see how you can change the color up here, so you can work with some different settings on your actual section fill. I think we'll just kind of stick with like, let's just go with like a black fill. I think that's probably the most clear description, or what you would expect from a section. A little tip though, it can be handy. If I turn off the fill, see all this stuff going on, like you're kind of looking through your model and seeing all these, all this like geometry that's buried in there. Here's a tip. Sometimes I turn on section fill and then I set the color to white. And that way it cleans up your drawing and just gives like a nice clean white fill. So it continues with that black and white line drawing effect, but just cleans up your drawings. So anyway, so our section fill, I'll just keep it at like a 50% gray for now. Again, any of this stuff, that's the beauty of the system, is it can all be updated and adjusted as we sort it out and move through it. All right, so there's our CAD style. There's our section drawing. Again, being very careful not to orbit or mess with my settings, because I have not taken a snapshot of those settings yet. So I'll go to my scenes dialog. I'm going to click one time, just a gentle one click, because if I double click on that perspective too, it's going to jump me to that scene. I'll click on the plus sign. I'm going to name this one Section AA, enter. I have now created that scene, which then snapshots, it remembers all these settings that make my screen look like this, attaches all those settings to the Section AA scene. At this point, I could jump back like to perspective 1, I can click design, I can click interior. Let's see, what is this one? Interior, this is our background. I'll just hide this, whatever. It's our bulk plane. And so, you can mess around and get to all these different places, or like layer states or tag states and styles, and really work around on your model. And say you needed to change something, like work on a wall, do your thing, and then you go back and check Section AA. And because we turned off our animation or our scene transitions, we just jump right back there. So that's how you create that first section. So now that we've done the work of creating our CAD style, if I want to make another section cut, I can kind of leverage the settings that I've already set up. Let me see if this is going to be a clever way to do this. All right. So right now we're chopping through that garage ridge. So maybe what I'd want to do is chop through. I'm going to chop through. I'm not sure where that ridge lands. You know what? I'm just going to kind of like chop through the kitchen here so I can see these cabinets and just see what that gets us. We can always change, and actually that gives me a good idea. Let's do this. I'll activate my section plane. That is also under Tools, Section Plane. It's in here somewhere. Yeah, we'll just activate it from our large tool set. I'll tap the right arrow key, and then I'm going to kind of click right here in that little hallway. So now we have another section cut. I'm going to right click on my active section plane and choose Align View. Now I can kind of zoom in like this and just frame my drawing where I want it. I'm going to hit Control T. That's my keyboard shortcut for deselect. Notice that whenever I add a section plane, it turns on section plane visibility. That's a property of my style. So section planes got checked on. I'm not going to fix that yet. I'm not going to update it either. All right, so let's just let that hang for a minute, and I'll show you how that can get resolved. So there's the section that I want. Because I started on section AA, all of my shadows, style, and all those settings are already taken care of. So now I can just click the plus sign, name this one section BB, and hit enter and lock in that name. So now watch what happens when I go to, I'll just call it out, my style has had something about it changed. I know that what changed is the section plane visibility. I'm not going to save it. So now if I just hop off that style, so I go to perspective 1, I go to design, and then I go back to section BB, check it out. My section planes are unchecked. So that's just one of those little gotchas about SketchUp where if you really understand the dance between, honestly, tags, styles, and scenes, it can be complicated, but it's just so powerful. It's like, it's a necessary thing that it's this complicated, in my opinion. It gives you the full flexibility to work, to get what you need, to break down your model into the pieces to create drawings. That's the idea. All right, so we've got section AA and section BB. Just something to keep in mind is that your style, this CAD style, has been attached to both of my sections. So if I were to modify, say for instance, my section fill and make it like a darker, all black, and say okay, and then I update it, any scene that has that style is going to have that same update, like that. All right, so then maybe I want to go to section fill and bring that back to a 50, like that. As long as I update it, any scene that has that style attached to it is going to reflect those new visual properties. Perfect. How we doing so far? Oh man, how we doing on the clock? This is taking longer than I thought. That's okay. I'm just gonna finish it. I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate your time. I try to keep these things at about an hour, but I think that this is going to be one of those where it goes a little bit over. But we'll just run with it. We're going to keep making the set of drawings and keep running through all of this, and that's all good. So the next drawing type that I want to create is going to be elevations. So to create an elevation scene in SketchUp, you want to, it's going to be very similar to a section scene, except my sections are going to be like 5 feet off the face of the elevation. So when I create an elevation, I like to drop that section cut through the site, or the earth layer, or the earth group, whatever you want to call it, so that I'm getting that nice line through it. All right, so let's hop back into SketchUp and let's take a look at adding some elevation drawings of each side of this house. This is going to be interesting because now we're going to be using the same CAD style, but we're going to be working with some shadows, and we'll see what else we're working with. It's going to be good. Let's do it. All right, so I could just kind of bounce around, like jump out of here. Typically I would go to perspective and then click design. So that way now I can get back to some place where I can really work on this. And so now we want to create some elevation drawings. So like I said, I typically like to drop a section cut 5 feet out. And so you could make that really precise. I could drop my section cut here, and then I can select my active cut, which is the orange one. I could move it by 5 feet, enter, like that. Now I could right click and choose align view. I could go to camera, parallel projection. I can zoom in like that, and now I can go to my styles, and I'm going to select the style, and we're going to go with our CAD style. So now I've got that nice, clean, flat drawing that can be set to an architectural scale and layout. We need to hop over into our shadows, turn on our shadows, and this does get a little bit tricky. Again, I always kind of start in June. What is that, like the summer solstice or whatever? That's kind of like when the sun is the highest, and you're going to get like, the most obvious array or largest array of different shadows. All right, so there's what my elevation will look like. You could consider on this, on an exterior elevation, it might be a consideration to turn off interior. Because now all that stuff on the inside of my model is not going to be considered by, not only by SketchUp, but also by layout. So when we eventually get all this into layout, we're not going to, it's not going to be flattening and thinking about all that geometry, all right? So that's kind of a good thing, and you couldn't really see it happen because everything on the inside just turned off. All right, so I think we're in good shape here. Another way to add a scene, let me see what this looks like. Because if I add a scene here, I might be able to just right-click and choose Add. And that's going to add at the end. And what it did is it actually added, it did duplicate like my design scene. So let's just make sure 99% of the time, 99% of the scenes that you create are going to have all the properties to save checked on. That's going to snapshot all these settings that make my screen look like this, attaches those settings to this scene, and I'm going to call this scene Elevation 01, enter, like that. All right, so now when I go to section BB, section AA, elevation 1, you can see that different tags are turning on and off. Shadow settings are coming on and off based on based on what type of drawing we're looking at. Now that I've set up my elevation 01, it's pretty easy just to kind of work around this thing and activate my section tool. Maybe I want to drop a section. I won't be as precise on this one. I'm just looking for my active cut, so I can right click and align view, and then I can again disregard the fact that my section plane visibility is checked on. I'm not concerned about it. I know that my style is out of date or not updated. That's good. I don't want these turned on in my CAD drawings. So let's just disregard that that's even going on, keeping that in the back of our mind. Let's tweak our shadows and see if we can find something of interest for our shadows. That looks pretty good there. I'll click the plus sign. When I click this plus sign, it snapshots these settings that make my screen look like this. This is now going to be elevation 02, enter. All right, so check it out. When I go to elevation 1, it turns those, it kind of re-engage that CAD style. So I lost my section plane visibility. That's a good thing. There's elevation 2. I'll orbit around, activate my section plane, click here, right click, align view, zoom around, kind of get a nice elevation. And then our shadows are actually looking pretty good here. So I'm just going to click the plus sign and call this one elevation 03. Unfortunately, in my experience, it's almost like always that there's one elevation where it's really tough to get good shadows on. All right, so let's just do this. Elevation 2 re-engages our CAD style. Back to elevation 3. There's our drawing. Looks good to me. And then on this one, I can activate my section plane tool. And I do want to just kind of chop within that 5-foot setback there where that fence lives. Right click on my section plane, align view. Zoom in. I'm guessing this is going to be the side that gives us some grief. We can just kind of slide this around. Sometimes if you get into August, yeah, like that. Looks good. Good enough, right? So I can click the plus sign, name this one elevation 04, enter, like that. Again, re-engage the CAD style by jumping back to a different scene. Back over here, here's elevation 4. Those are 4 elevations all set to parallel projection. Those can be put into layout, set to a scale. So to jump back to a good working place, I can click a perspective and then click design. And now I'm on my way back on the road to creating some more scenes. All right. Let's see, where do we get to now? This is going to be the big one, plans. Plans can be the ultimate dance, all right? I think at this point, let's see, if anyone's got any questions, certainly, chime in on the chat panel. That's all good. I'm just going to turn this off because I have a feeling that's going to buzz and jump in when I least expect it and want it to. So let's do this. We're going to create some plan scenes that can be, well, actually, thanks, John. Before I get into this, just take a moment to answer a question or two. Off topic, what maps are you using for geolocation? Definitely, Placemaker. Daniel Tall's Placemaker is the absolute best, and I'm with you on that. Let me just show you real quick. We'll hop in here, and oh, come on. Let's see, camera 2, screen, something. There we go. Yeah, the resolution on this is outstanding. I mean, it actually allows you to like get in there and trace, trace out around a roof perimeter. I find this to be really helpful to just start any project when you import the site. Grab Placemaker, buy the credits. I mean, it's insane how much better this resolution is than what is provided in SketchUp. So you can see here, like I traced the outline of the house, and I actually use that outline. I send that to layout to take some field notes when I head out there. I create these real quick, just kind of simple outline drawings so that when I'm on site, I have something worthwhile to take notes on. I'm not pacing around the site trying to make this outline. So nice. I like this. This is a bit of a new scenario. I'm trying to get used to paying attention to our chat panel and working back and forth. So I appreciate that, John. I hope that clears things up. But definitely, Placemaker, well worth it. I mean, I've always told Daniel, I'm like, the high resolution aerial imagery is worth the price of admission alone. That alone is like just such a game changer for me when I'm working on these projects. So. All right, so let's get to our plan scene. So the final dance, the great dance here, the big dance, whatever you want to call it, creating scenes for plans is definitely by far the most complex combination of layers, styles, and scenes, and moving all of this over into layout, which I am going to do, and we'll kind of at the end just run all this stuff into layout, and then please stick with me because I am going to show you how Condoc can move things rather quickly. So let's go with creating all of our different plan scenes. To do that, I think, I'll see how fast this goes, but we're going to need to drop section cuts at level 1 and level 2. And then I'm also going to create some views, and we're going to need to make sure those views are lining up perfectly so we can stack our viewports. Basically, I create 2 separate scenes so that I can stack a light line weight on top of a heavy line weight. And if I'm feeling saucy in here, which I kind of am today, I might just throw a hatch viewport underneath, because really it's not that hard to do, and I'm pretty confident I can demo that without a lot of extra time. So let's hop in there. Let's create some plan scenes for plan drawings. All right, here we go. Let's see, the big dance, as I call it. I think the first thing to do is just drop the section plane where I want it. So I'll tap the up arrow key to constrain this on the blue axis. I'm going to snap to. This is basically the finished. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the finished floor level of my garage. And then I'm going to select that active section plane. I'm going to move it straight up. Like that. I'm going to type in 4 feet. That's kind of like a baseline default, for creating plans, is just to, cut your plan 4 feet off the ground. Although, that could be whatever you like. And if it doesn't look right, try something else. I'm going to click Align View. I'm going to click Camera, Parallel Projection. I'm going to go to my style, and I'm going to choose the CAD style. I'm going to go to my tags, and I'm going to turn off my earth. I know for sure I don't want earth. We're going to work with a, so earth, and let's see. Really what I want to do is create like a heavy and a light viewport, because that's how you create your array of line weights, okay? So let's do this. I'm going to go to our earth, And let's see. So we'll make our heavy first. Let's go with turn off like, and this is where you could even go with like, you know, all off. I think this would be a good place to click this. And then what do I actually want to see? And I want to see my walls like that. All right. So that was kind of handy, right? All off is not saving any section planes. So it didn't break that section plane that I added. It's not saving camera location or anything. So that was kind of handy. So there we go. There's all off. And then now I'm like only getting my walls. All right. So this is going to be interesting. It's funny because I actually haven't done any of this in a long time because I have Condoc, and I just kind of push the button, make it happen. So really on the heavy viewport, I want to see my walls, and that's it. So that looks pretty good right now. Safe play is to go to my scenes and click the plus sign and then go with like plan 01 heavy like that. All right, so I'm going to call that my heavy plan scene. Now, on this one, I think we're just going to use 2 viewports because I've already got this fill. I don't want to mess with hatch. That gets a little bit cumbersome stacking those viewports. So we're going to stick with just using the same style. So we have a heavy scene, and then I'm going to add another scene, and I'm going to call this one Plan 01 light, like that. All right, now the light scene is going to have our walls turned off, and then I'm definitely going to want like doors and for sure windows, and stairs would be a good one, and then hard surfaces, floors. I'm recalling some things, some little mistakes I've made, but that's okay. We're going to fix them. And maybe barriers would be a good one. I think that's it. All right, so I'm just going to right click and update that scene. So I've got heavy and I've got light. On heavy, I do also want to have my columns turned on. There's one little column there. And then also it can be, you know, floors can help. That's kind of a common thing. And foundation, we're not going to want that. Lights, roof. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm on the heavy scene. I've changed some tag visibility. Personally, I don't like hopping into the scene update dialog and trying to think about what it is I'm updating. I'm just going to right click on this and choose update. So I got heavy and then I've got light. And I got to tell you, I think that we're going to need another CAD style. And I think it's going to be on light. I take that back. Let's just keep going. We're going to, yeah. See how this is cutting here? I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to duplicate this CAD style. And instead of CAD 1, I'm going to call it CAD lines or like no fill, like that. All right. So I duplicated my CAD style. I created it called no fill. And now what I need to do is attach that no fill to my light plan scene. So we go back to our scenes. Now check this out. This is advanced. And that's the point of this, right? So right now my active style is CAD no fill, but that's not what's actually attached. So you can always just go back in here to your properties to save and like style and fog. If I uncheck it and recheck it, that is kind of a quick way to just very quickly you know, get in there and attach that new style. But unfortunately, I forgot. Let's go to edit and then turn off our section fill so that we're not seeing that fill. This is the difference. All right, so we're gonna do CAD no fill. So we got heavy is gonna be a bottom viewport, and then on top of that is going to be our light, okay? All right, so let's go back to perspective 1, click on design. That's gonna jump us out here so that we can kind of move around quickly. I'm going to drop another section plane up here, and I'm going to just kind of like, you know, cut through these windows like that. And I'm going to right click and choose align view. And we're going to go back to camera parallel projection. Now, I think what could be really clever here is if we use the bottom floor layers, which I am going to have to, as I'm going through this, which is probably a good thing. This is how it actually goes. You start thinking like, oh yeah, I got to adjust the level. I forgot about that. We're going to have to do that for sure here. We can use the settings that we've already created on our level 1 and just kind of like reuse all that on level 2. So let's just do this. Let's go to our scenes. I'm going to just select once here, click the plus sign. You know what? I'm just going to start over. Let's try this again. I'm going to delete this. Yes, I'm going to go to heavy, and I'm going to orbit around like this. I'm going to go to view and turn off my section cuts. I'm going to add a new cut up top like this. Tap the up arrow key, slice through there. And that's going to be good enough, all right? I just want to get that active cut. So now I can add a scene, and I'm going to call this one Plan 02 Heavy, like that. And then I'll scoot it down. And so now we've got Plan 01 Heavy, and we've got Plan 02 Heavy. You can see the problem. Our camera view is all messed up. And it's definitely advantageous to have your plan scenes. Definitely the plan, both the Plan 1 and Plan 2, they need to have the same camera views, but it's nice to have Plan 01 match Plan 02. So what we're going to do is a bit of an advanced update here. So I'm going to go to Plan 01 Heavy. That's the active scene. I'm going to select Plan 02 Heavy, and I'm going to just do that little trick where I uncheck, recheck. And now I can go to Plan 02 Heavy. And it matches. How about that? That is some advanced stuff right there. Okay, that's how you match properties between scenes. You make the scene that you want the properties from, that you want to sample the properties from, you make that active. And then you go select the scene you want to apply to. And then, yeah, if you want to be real tricky about it, use this uncheck, recheck. All right, and I told you in the beginning not to mess with those, but hey, if you know what you're doing, you can save some time. Let's do it again. All right, so let's go back here to Plan 01 Light. Now, I can tell you that on Plan 01 Light, I don't want a section plane. I don't want a section cut. So I'm going to go to View, Section Planes, and I'm going to make this orange one. If I double click on it, it's no longer an active cut. All right, and then the other thing I want to mess with on this is my tags. Is that I don't want to see my 3D objects. Those are only represented in section, elevation, and perspective. In plan, I don't want to see my 3D objects. I want to see my 2D graphics. All right. So I've just messed with my, let's see, Plan 01 Light. I've definitely messed with my visible tags. So uncheck, recheck. And I definitely messed with my active section planes. So uncheck, recheck, like that. So now I've got Plan 01 Light no longer has an active section plane. There's one more issue at hand here, is that on my tags, and I kind of alluded to this, is like, this is Plan 01 Light, so let's turn off level 2. All right, now, if I were to right click on this and update it, it would save this camera view. That's no good. So what I want to do is go to Plan 01 Light, and let's just adjust our visible tags again. And so now you can see the camera is still intact, my layers are good, my style's good, my camera view's good. So you've got heavy, and then you've got light, and those are going to stack perfectly. Now Plan 02 Heavy, let's just adjust our tags. You know, you might want level 1 off, you might want it on. I'm going to turn it off because we're isolating level 2. And so I've adjusted my, my tags, and technically I would turn off 3D object, although that doesn't come into play for our walls. So I can go back down to my scenes, Plan 02 Heavy, and what did I just mess with? Really just our tags. So Plan 02 Heavy, like that. All right, so 02 Heavy. Let's go to 01 Light. Watch this. I'm going to add a scene like that, and this is going to be Plan 02 Light, like that, and I'll scoot it down. And so plan O2 light needs to have different levels on. This is plan 2. So we're using level 2, and you can see where this really comes into play. You know, I don't want to have all this mashed up. So on level 2, I turn off level 1. I'm on plan O2 light. I'm going to make sure that you know, I haven't messed with my camera view, and I'm just going to toggle undo tags, redo tags. There's light, heavy, light. All right, light, heavy. So plan heavy, plan light. Plan heavy, plan light. I'm going to save this. That was kind of a decent amount of work that we did there. I hope that's coming through clear. I'm making sense. Let me do one more demonstration on these plans. What if I did this? What if I went to each one of these plans and just like update, you know, and then go to this one and like scoot over here, put it down there, update. I'm changing my camera views, all right, like that. So I've really messed things up. This is kind of a common mistake to make, is to like, oh my God, what did I do? None of my plans are stacking. You know, maybe this is here like this, so it's very obvious. This one's in the left, bottom, middle, kind of jacked up over here. So now all my scenes, you know, when I'm updating it like that, it's only changing the camera view because that's the only setting that I messed with. To get all of these plans to stack again, all is not lost. What I can do is, typically I go to like O1 heavy. That's like a good clean indication of where I want my camera to be for all of my plans. So I'll go to my scenes and I'm going to select O1 heavy, and I can hold control and I can add these others to it. You can also select O1 heavy, hold control and shift, and it'll select everything in between that selection. That's kind of handy if you've got like a pretty massive array of scenes. So I've got my screen looking the way I want it to. I've got the camera view that I want. I've selected the scenes that I want to apply this camera view to, and then I just go over here and I go uncheck, recheck, and now heavy, light, heavy, light. So now all my camera views match. That is probably worth a rewind on the recording. I'm not going to do it again, but that is like one of the most powerful tips or tricks, is like applying the properties of one scene to another. And that works with anything. I just use that for our camera location, but certainly you could use that technique to match layer properties or styles or shadow settings. There's all kinds of ways that you could use that. All right. Nice. All right. So then, you know, we just go back to camera perspective 1, design, and we're in good shape. I'll hit save. And let's see, can we do this now? Get back to our good here. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. Again, I guess I'm just going to kind of take my time here because I know I've blown the timeline. That's okay, and I appreciate if you're sticking around. Certainly, I do understand it's a work day. Hopefully, this is everything I put together on this channel is really designed to expedite workflow. That's my whole thing, and definitely for professional work. So get it if you have to get back to work, but please come back and watch the recording. I'm going to keep going though. I don't have too much more. I'm going to now, the next step of this is going to be I want to put all of these drawings into layout. And we're just going to like build out the entire cartoon set. And you know, the sections, elevations, and perspectives, those are pretty easy. Those are kind of like a one viewport game. And then I'm going to run through how I would stack these viewports for the plans. It's going to go pretty quick. And then after that, I am going to demonstrate our Condoc tools because it automates this entire thing. I'm telling you, everything I've been doing, I can get it done in about 5 minutes. That's like the magic trick. But it's so important. It is so important to understand how scenes actually work. And when you know these tricks through and through, and you have a completely full understanding of the way that scenes work, well, then you can really bend and break the system. You can make it your own. When it comes to troubleshooting, it's just a very valuable skill to master not only scenes, but layers and styles attached to scenes. That's the whole idea. Actually, all the properties to save. All right, so then it looks like we got one other question. What's your workflow to add scenes with imported SketchUp house file into a site SketchUp file and house SketchUp files already got the scene. So workflow to add scenes into a site, and the house already has scenes. So, I think what you're getting at there is like, referencing in, say for instance, you had like one base model and then you wanted, let's say you build your house over here and you build your site over here, and then you want to bring them together in one model and they have their own scenes. That's all good. You could like, use these same techniques, run all your scenes inside of those models and then import them into one complete model. And I've seen, and then you could even run like your site plan in there and go through that whole process so that you can have like the main model with its site plan scenes, like an overhead, overall, maybe you draw your permits, your setbacks and this and that. And then inside of your house model, you've got, just the house walls and this and that. Maybe you have a garage model, and over there you've got your garage plans. And then all those models kind of work themselves over into layout as well. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but in my opinion, you're setting yourself up. Number one, it's more complex. You've got these different models. In my opinion, if you build lightweight models, there's no need to do that. When I'm working on these projects, they move very quickly. I have no need to break them apart like that. Also, you're setting yourself up for opportunities for error, in my opinion. You're creating these different models. They're all coming into one. Did I reload it? So now you've like created like a new step of like having this main model where you got to reload everything, and then before it gets reloaded in layout. So you've created like this, daisy chain of links that has to happen. In my opinion, I'd rather have like a project model for, the design model, and then a project like file for my layout presentation. That's the way that I get things done. And I just think it's simpler that way. So, cool. And then, yeah, while we're at it, might as well. What's else? More wall details, like stud details. Yeah, so, I'll show you, actually, that's a great question. How do I set up like details? So what I'm going to show you is how we use a section cut, like section AA. I can like duplicate that drawing, set it to like 1.5 inches equals a foot, explode it as a vector in layout. Now it becomes a scaled drawing. Now I can add all kinds of stuff and detail to it, work with it. Layout's like a drafting program. I think that's like a huge missed opportunity. Folks don't realize that you can just straight up draft to scale inside of layout. Forget SketchUp, just draw 2D plans in layout. I do that all the time. So I'll get there when we create this cartoon set and drop everything into layout. I'll show you how I jumpstart architectural details by using my section cut drawings. All right, cool. Okay, so where did I leave off? That's good. Yeah, this is nice, having a conversation with you guys. Appreciate it on this Thursday. So the next thing that we're going to do is take all of these scenes, basically the big idea is I don't need scenes, I need drawings. So let's take our SketchUp model, save it, insert it into layout, and start creating our cartoon set. When I say cartoon set, I'm just going to lay out all my drawings on all their different sheets, kind of get them where they're going to fit, and set them to the proper render settings in layout. We're going to talk a little bit about line weights as well, and we're going to have to stack some viewports. So this will be the step where we take our SketchUp model and build out the entire cartoon set inside of layout. Let's get to it. All right, of course, first things first, I always want to save this model. Then I'm going to hop into layout. I'm going to start a new document under my templates. I do have some preloaded construction documents, 24 by 36. That looks good. Now to insert these into layout, I'm going to go to File, Insert, and I'll go to my temp folder. This is the ADU file that I've been working on. All right, so here we go. When I insert this into layout, we're going to need to work heavily inside of our SketchUp model inspector. The same tray system exists inside of layout, and I got to keep an eye on like whether I'm blocking anything with the camera, but I'll leave the camera on for now. And we're going to need to adjust these settings. It's my opinion that adding more settings in layout is a really bad idea. Personally, I don't like the direction that SketchUp's been going, or layout's been going, by adding more and more controls inside of layout. In my opinion, we need one place to get everything done, and that place already exists. It's SketchUp. So now we have some additional settings inside of layout, but unfortunately we don't have all of the settings. So in my opinion, if we don't have all of them, like I can't adjust my section cuts, I can't adjust active section cuts, what's the point? I'm always gonna need to go back to SketchUp to mess with it. So that's my opinion. Anyway, so what I'm getting at, it's always best to build out all your scenes in SketchUp first, and then we're gonna go back into layout. I've inserted my drawing, and we're going to choose a scene inside of layout. Let's just go with perspective 1. That's easy, all right? And then I can like scale this down. Here's a little trick with a viewport. If I scale it, like kind of go, I'll just go kind of like this, and I'm gonna say, I like to have things at like a, 16:9. So I'm gonna say 16 inches, enter. So now that viewport is 16 inches wide. Now I can scale it back down and type 9 inches, enter, like that. So this is now a perfect 16:9 ratio. If I hold shift, I can constrain my proportions like that. If I hold control, I can make a copy, and I hold shift to kind of, copy it straight across like that. And then maybe I'll just take these two and hold control and shift and make a copy. So now I would have like perspective, I guess I only made, perspective 2. So I really only made 2 perspectives. That's fine. But you can see where I was going with that. You just go duplicate all your viewports. Once you've got your settings dialed in, it's a raster viewport. And that's pretty much it for this. And as far as line weights go, on these rasters, I mean, the default line weight is 0.5. I suppose that's fine. Looks good to me. Keep in mind too that like under File, Document Setup, on the Paper tab, this is where your display resolution is set to low. I'll just show you what that means here very quickly. If I go to High, it's going to re-render everything. All right, and that takes just a moment. And see how much better that is? Like it really got crispy right there. So, but I don't want to work at high resolution because that's going to, slow me down. And I know some folks think that layout is really slow, and I do have my my beefs with it, but I found my ways to dance around this thing, and it works just fine for me. So keep your display resolution low inside of SketchUp, output resolution high, knowing that whenever I export this thing out, it's all going to look really nice and crisp. It's going to be fine. All right. So there's my perspectives. I could just add a page. Maybe that's my cover page, where I'm going to have, on my cover page, I have some perspectives, and I put in my project information. And then, you could just go back here and you could just insert the same SketchUp model again. That doesn't hurt anything. If you look at your document setup references, you're still, leveraging that same reference. This reference that I just inserted, it's exactly the same as this one. I suppose I could have just as easily copied and pasted, but that's all good, just to keep those in mind. Now, let's work on our elevation. So first things first, I always want to make my work, my life inside of layout real easy. I choose an elevation, and you can see how pixelated that is. Elevations definitely need to be a vector, but look at what happens. Line weight cleans up, shadows disappear. Unfortunately, shadows have to render as a raster. So we've got the best of both worlds, hybrid. Elevation views with shadows have to be a hybrid rendering. 0.5 is probably fine, but let's see what it looks like. It's already set to ortho. We're going to set it to 1/4 inch. That's kind of like a standard issue for what I do for any of my elevations and plans for a residential project. And I'll just kind of scoot those around like that. Looks good to me. All right, and if you want some tips on how to dial up your elevations, I did one of the last 2 live streams ago, I think it was, the architectural presentation board. I talked about how to like dial these up and really make them look good for elevation. That's like a good one to go check out. All right, same deal. our line weights, you could argue that, like, the profiles are a little light, they're just a little weak. So I don't know, just try like a 1. And what I do when I'm checking this out is make sure that you're looking at this at 100%. All right, that's definitely too much. So I don't know, like, 0.8. I do have my auto render turned on right now because it's kind of handy when you're sorting this out, and eventually I would turn it off. Auto renders right here. And sorry, we're gonna keep going. Like, I think we're probably in good shape at like 0.5. That seems to be a pretty reasonable setting. So you can choose from these drop downs, or you can just type like 0.5, enter, like that. And then it renders it out. So that does look pretty good. So once I've dialed in my settings on one of these viewports, I'm going to click over here to get out of that drop down. I would just do that same thing I was about to do with my perspectives. And then I would go to like elevation 02, like that. And then I would go with elevation 3 down here potentially. And then elevation 4. And some of the gripes I hear about layout, this auto render, like, yeah, it does take a moment, like right now, but it's not something that I do constantly. Usually I like go hop into SketchUp, work for a while, and just kind of render one piece at a time. So I don't know, I don't mind it. I found my way around it. So there's my elevations, perfect. Click the plus sign. You know what? Actually, I'm going to delete that page. Check this out. I'm going to kill this page, and instead of adding a page, I'm going to duplicate a page. So duplicate the page, and then maybe I'll just run with these settings I already have. I'll just get rid of these, this one, our SketchUp model, is going to be section AA, like that. And let's just assume I want this at a different scale. So maybe I go with like 1/2 inch, like that. All right, so that drawing just got much bigger. So if I hold Alt, I believe Command on the Mac, I forget. We'll do this and just kind of stretch these around and get some sections. And this might actually be too big for having 2 on the page. But let's take a look. Look what's going on here. I guess, really we're only seeing vector type line work. But I can tell you that Hybrid has to render a raster, and it has to render a vector, and then it sandwiches these guys. So to save your computer a little bit of work, just set it to vector, and that's going to be good enough. Again, hit it over to 100%. Maybe try like a 0.75. That might dial things up a notch. Hey, while we're at it, let me show you just a quick demonstration on what these line weights mean. If I hop back into SketchUp and go look at like section AA and go to my style and edit that CAD style, my section line width is at a 3. All right, that's a multiplier. So that's multiplying 3 times 0.75 on that viewport. Maybe I should just set that to like a 2. So now it's only going to do, 2 times that. I'll save it. I'll hop into layout, I'll select my viewport and update the model reference. And watch, these section lines are going to thin out. Let's see, render models on page. All right, so section AA, it's at 0.75. And let's test it. Here's one way to test it. If I just duplicate this over here and right click and explode it, you can now kind of get an idea of like what are these section plane, just like kill that fill. These guys, what are these? So 2.25, that was like a 3x. So yeah, 3 times 0.75. So I changed my style in here to 2 on section AA. I saved it, and then I hop into layout and I right click, update. I think I didn't quite get it rendered because I can tell they're a little bit thinner now. So see how those are just a little bit thinned out? Not quite enough, but just a quick demonstration on how these line weights work. I think that's kind of an important thing. So I'm going to put it back to 3. That's typically, I usually use my profiles at 2 to get that depth, that extra line weight. So update model reference, and then it's going to automatically re-render. We should see those section cuts get a little bit thicker. Seems like it's just kind of taking a moment to do that. Render models on page. So we're good. All right. I'm going to save this to my desktop temp. I'm going to call this ADU. I typically name my SketchUp files exactly the same as, name my layout files the same as SketchUp. All right, so now because we've updated, we're getting some auto renders happening here, and let's keep rocking. Yeah, that was a heavy page. Okay, now I'll duplicate this page and we can get back to our section BB. And because I have all of my settings already dialed in for section AA, you know, all I have to do is just kind of move those around, and that looks pretty good. All right, perfect. Let's get to the big one. Let's get to our plans. So I'm going to add a sheet, and I'll go File, Insert, drop that ADU in there. To create a plan view, I'm going to go to our SketchUp model scene again, and we're going to do a Plan 01 Heavy. All right, this is going to be a vector like that, and it's going to be at 1/4 inch scale like that. I'll get my viewport kind of dialed in just a notch like this, and then what I can do is duplicate this viewport. All right, so I'll just make a copy of it like that so it's kind of obvious. My copy is selected. I can go with Plan 01 Light. All right, now this one, instead of 0.5, I'm going to use like a 0.25. Actually, I'm going to use something lower, like a 0.2, because what that's going to do is create like an actual array of line weights. If I just cut it in half, my profiles would like double it, and it would be equal to the heavy. This isn't all about line weights. Somebody did ask at one point to cover line weights. So maybe I'll do that in another live stream, but I'm going to align these to left, align these to top, and see when they stack, you get one complete drawing, and you get like, you know, thick cuts for your walls. You get much thinned out line weights for your doors and your windows. Everything just starts really coming together. So now I can just scoot that over here. Maybe I'll just grab both of these since they're already kind of stacked where I want them. And I can select my heavy viewport, and let's go with like Plan 02 Heavy. And then I'll select my light viewport and go with Plan 02 Light. Bam, like that. That is pretty nice. Pretty fast at this, you know? Do you agree? I haven't done this in a long time. It's like making these manually can be, it's a hard thing to teach. I've tried. I wrote about it in my book, and that's why I created our conduct tools. Okay, we're getting there. Yeah, we're definitely going over today. That's all right. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so I figure let's get some nice recordings in, and we'll bust these up and you know, chop them into some nice videos, share them with you guys. So definitely subscribe and all that. I think the last thing I want to do is show you that everything I just did can be completely automated using our conduct tools. So all of our drawings, all of our tags, all of our utility scenes, everything that you've seen can be completely 100% automated using our conduct tools. The last hour and a half that I've been going through and creating all this stuff manually can be done in, I'm just gonna call my shot and say it's 5 minutes. So let's hop back into SketchUp. I'm going to run through the conduct tools and then send it over to layout and recreate the work I just did very quickly. Let's get to it. All right, I'm going to close this, save it, and hop into SketchUp, and I'm going to start a new file. I'll save the changes to ADU just so we've got it. I'm going to go to Window, 3D Warehouse, and I'm going to click Download and load that directly into my SketchUp model here. Once that's in there, I am going to explode it one time because that is the actual grouping that I want. And then if you remember, I had all these extra section cuts because that model is completely set up and the way it needs to be. Here's the first thing that we can automate. This is our condoc system. Remember how we created those design style, design scene tab? The first thing I do is just click design. Bam, we've got our design scene tab, and this design button does actually a lot more than just setting a style. It resets the camera view back to perspective. It runs a zoom extents, really more valuable than a design scene tab. And then I can go in here and let's take a look at our condoc tool bar. So if I go to condoc tools and take a look here, check out our configurator tool. So I'll just blow this up. You know, on a fresh install, Condoc Lite is the default drawing set. This is kind of a generic drawing set that will work with anyone's tags and creates very generic drawings. If I load in our Condoc Pro Architect drawing set, I'm now working with our prescribed set of tags, our level, element, location, condition. I can now pick things apart as construction plan, floor framing, roof framing, furniture, color, presentation, reflected ceiling, demolition. All of these plans are already created. Each one of these, like I'll do a new construction plan because that's what we're working with. These guys here, these are all scenes that are going to get stacked into viewports. So each one of these is a scene that will be created and ultimately stacked into a drawing. And I can tell you that you don't need to worry about any of this because I've already completely thought it out for you. If you just stick with our layering system, our tagging system, it all just works. So first thing I'll do, I'm just going to add a plan. This is a 2 levels. And we can go with like a foundation plan, a construction plan, and a roof framing plan. That's pretty much everything that we're going to need right here. I'll even do a site plan with the roof. Watch what happens with my scenes when I click go. I'll click set up project, and bam, we have got so many scenes with perfect settings applied to them. I'm going to get to like our construction plan 01 heavy, and let's just get rid of some of this stuff so we're not seeing it. Look at, there's heavy and light. So light, heavy, and if I scoot down the line here, we even have like hatch A, and let me save this real quick as like ADU2, save it. And you've got hatch B, construction plan 02 light, heavy, hatch A. I go back to my condoc system, click design, there we go. All right, let's get the rest of our drawings created. And you know, when I'm working, I actually hit Control D, so I'm working with like a nice large screen space. I can recreate our perspectives. So if I go back here and say I want to do a perspective, we can do like a color exterior perspective like that. And then I could orbit around over here and run a color exterior perspective. And then I can hit my search, and maybe I'll go with like perspective, color exterior perspective 01. There you go. And here's I love that new scene search, I gotta say, and there's 02. All right. You can always click design to get back to that like lightweight, snappy SketchUp environment. If we want to cut some sections, I'll do the exact same thing. Activate my section tool, tap the left arrow key, and we'll click here, and we're gonna have all these different types of sections already baked in here for you, you know. And of course, these are completely configurable. You can change them, you can delete them if you don't want to see this many, but it's all part of our Condoc Pro drawing set. I'm going to go with like a CAD section fill like that. And then I'll do the, I believe I did something like interior, and then I activated my section tool like this, tap the right arrow key and snap our section there, and CAD section fill. And then you can see what's happening here. If I bring my scenes back up, we've got our, it's naming them AA like that, and then BB, and we're even going to stack some scenes on our sections. I tend to not even mess with these. You don't want to touch them and goof with them, although it's nice to know how to. That's why I went through all these scenes for designers. Now, I'm going to also snapshot some elevation. So I'll just click here. When I click on that face and do like CAD elevation shadows, it bounces that section cut 5 feet off of that wall, and just gets that ready for me automatically. CAD, elevation, shadows like that. And then I can just go back here and I'll show you these scenes that are being created. So much quicker just to use these tools. So like that, but extremely valuable to know how to do this, because otherwise it would be kind of a mess. You wouldn't want to rely on only these tools. You got to know how to tweak these scenes too. All right, so there's like, you know, sometimes I do go back in here. This would be like an example of like needing to know how to update these. Like I like to go in here and select my elevation 01 and adjust both of those camera views at the same time. See how I uncheck camera location, recheck it, go to 02. You know, since Condoc runs like a zoom extents, I find it handy just to go in there. You don't have to do this, but I just like to do it because then all my drawing scenes are like right where I want them. So I'm just updating my camera views for each one of these like that. And so update camera view using some of these advanced tips that we just covered a little bit ago. Maybe I'll even look at like my sections. You know, these guys, again, you could zoom in and do the same thing. So camera like that and foreground like that. Perfect. All right, I click design. That gets me right back out here. And so now we've got our plans, we've got our sections, and we've got our elevations. And I think we're in good shape. So now I can run the Condoc export. This is going to kick all these scenes. It takes all of our scenes, bundles them up into stacked viewports. The site plan, I think I would consider doing that at like 1/8 inch. Foundation plans, all that sections, let's do 1/4 inch. And I'm not even concerned about our perspectives. I'll save my model and we're going to send that over into layout. So that can take just a moment. It's going to bundle everything up. And basically what it does is it creates a scrapbook and it puts it into layout so that all I have to do is drag and drop to add these drawings, just like we did before, where, you know, previously I was like duplicating viewports and scooting around like that. But now what I'm going to do is just use my scrapbook and drag and drop these drawings into layout to build a cartoon set. So while this is cooking, I'm just going to hop over into layout. I'm going to start a new file. I'm going to go with my templates, again under 24 by 36. So these come with our Condoc tools. And let's just give it a moment. I might even just turn around for just a second, check our chat panel, see how we're doing here. Yeah, nice. Still got Douglas Hall. How you doing? Yeah, lining these up is definitely a skill to have in your arsenal. Yeah, I think usually what I do with this is just break off like a few plans, but this will be fine. We'll just kind of hang. Anyone else have any questions as we're going like a full hour past the planned time? All right, let's hop back over here. I'll keep taking a look. Yeah, it is a significant amount of work. There it goes. It is a significant amount of work that Condoc just did. Check this out. Back to our scrapbooks and go to our Condoc drawings scrapbook. At this point now, I've got my site plan at 1/8 inch. This is really cool. The fact that like all these topography lines are dynamic, and what I mean by that is that we're creating them with section cuts through our site. So if you were to modify your site, these topography lines would change. All of our line weights have been thought through. I'm graying out the background, making your roof plan nice and heavy. So I've really thought out that graphical style for you. Here's a foundation plan. Just drag and drop and find that drawing in your viewport. You can see that this one, you know, it's like dashing your foundation, hatching your walls. Yeah, pretty handy just to push a button, get that. Here's a construction plan. You can see how much more complex this is. And by complex, I just mean like it's got like different hatches for exterior versus interior. It's got all of our line weights. And you can see what it's done is if I ungroup this, you can just kind of pull this thing apart and you can see how we've got like heavy, and then you've got like light, and then you've got hatch B, you've got hatch A. So essentially what Condoc does is just makes all those scenes, adds all those styles, gets it all set up for you, and stacks them so that you don't have to think about it, you know. So we'll just kind of trim that, and then we'll go through here, and we have this guy as well, like this. There you go. So there's all of our plans. We'll add a page, and you can see as we go through here, we have our, we actually don't have roof frame. We actually don't have roof framing in this model. That wasn't part of the thing. Here's my perspectives. Again, drag and drop. These are already set to be a raster. They're also set with the style that's got this, you know, extensions on it. So there's our different perspectives. Yeah, these rasters are just a notch heavier than the vectors. So I tend to just work with those and move on. So drag and drop that one in there. Perfect. Okay, and then we'll go to our elevations. Are probably gonna, oh, these are our sections. So we'll click the plus sign. There's our section drawings. There's one, and here's the next. So again, the title ends up down here. All our scenes are nice and organized, section AA, BB, and I'll definitely show you how to jumpstart your detail drawing here in just a moment. Then we'll go on. The shadows on our elevations are really cool. So here's like elevation 1 and elevation 2. Notice that our shadows are all hitting at a clean 45. So every elevation you get, all the shadows are at a perfect 45-degree angle. So that's pretty cool too. So again, a feature of Condoc that it's hard to accomplish that otherwise. All right. So there's all of our elevations. You can see I dropped my section cut. I would probably just go back to that scene and scoot it in a little bit. So anyway, that's the end of that story. So I don't know, I didn't time myself, but rather quickly, you can, if you just organize your model with our system, you can get your drawings. All right, I do hope, I'm going to wrap it up here, and then I'm going to hop back in for some more Q&A. So that is the idea behind scenes for designers. Of course, I'm always pitching Condoc. I mean, it's what I use. I mean, I love SketchUp and layout. Condoc is the way that I use SketchUp and layout, but it's terribly important that you understand the way that scenes and styles and tags and how all that works, because when you really understand it, then you can truly make the Condoc system and tools yours and automate your own system. And furthermore, once you've created scenes with Condoc, you can then change them and tweak them and, you know, bend and break the system, man. That's the idea. So anyways, definitely appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Thursday, and I'm going to, yeah, so definitely we'll have some more of these events. Subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification. You've heard that a million times, you know the deal. Definitely going to be doing more of these live streams. I really enjoy this format. I don't know, let me know, like, is 2 hours too long? I kind of think it is. It's a long time for me to go, but I just want to make sure I'm respecting everyone's time and, you know, get you in, rope you in for an hour, I think is usually what I go for. But hey, if you like the long format, let me know that, because I don't know, I'm just trying to show you guys some cool stuff. Again, you know, everything I do on this channel is sharing tips and tricks I learned from real design projects, helping you move faster. So anyways, really appreciate you guys hanging out. I'll see you next time, and I'm going to stick around for some more questions. I've got you guys up here. If you have anything you want to know, just type it in the chat panel, and let's talk about it. So nice. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. Jamie, nice presentation. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely still have one-on-one training. We typically just sell that through our Condoc tools, and I forget if you're active or not right this second, but you can certainly hop in there, and on the support page, there's premium support, and you can purchase an hour at a time and schedule it all automated. Or if you shoot me an email, mike@brightmandesigns.com, I can shoot you a link, and I'd be more than happy to help you sort things out. And then, Doug, yeah, is there any way to automate section names in the notations? When I did that layout 22 review, that's when I like kind of torched him on that auto text that, you know, it doesn't really, like you can definitely, I don't even want to demonstrate it because it doesn't work. I'd just be demonstrating how it doesn't work. In the layout review that I did, I showed you how to get it to work, you actually have to turn on section planes, which is already kind of a deal breaker. Then you have to like snap to it, and then it really doesn't work. You got to like make your leaders invisible. So I don't really like that. I would say no. There's to automate section names and the notations. There's really not. Perhaps you'd consider making a scrapbook where you like, you know, if you had all your section callouts, you could copy them down the line and say AA, BB, CC, so that you can just like drag and drop. But truth be told, I just double click in or hit enter to jump into the text and edit it. Nice. John, appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Another question. Is it possible to export from SketchUp with Condoc to another paper format? Absolutely. I believe, and let me just read the rest. Use the default layout page, possibly do 2 times export different viewports to a different page size. Yeah, so I think there's a couple things in there. So number one, I think it's a big yes to everything. Like this system is very flexible. So when you install Condoc, we drop those presentation and construction document title blocks into your system files so that they just appear in layout. If you're on metric or you need something else, we do have a metric collection of scrapbooks on our forum. It's right at the top. Like if you go to our Condoc forum, right at the top of there, we have all the metric scrapbooks and everything. So you can grab those no problem. And then furthermore, you could just make your own. I mean, yeah, you could change the paper size, set it as a default template. You might just need to kind of tweak the title block around, but that's like really easy stuff to do. So honestly, you would just kind of start a new document, change the paper size, tweak the annotations, and save it as a template. Very, very simple and straightforward on that. Nice. Never too long. All right. Well, that's good. I appreciate that. I mean, of course, you know, you can always hop in and out as you need or come back, but yeah, it's like I'm just curious if folks like the concise 1 hour or we go long. So yeah, Jamie, hit me with an email, mike@brightmandesigns.com. And yeah, thanks, Eric. Hey, I'm always looking out for you, man. Just trying to show you the pitfalls and let's eliminate frustration. Just you know, I'm a big fan of SketchUp and layout. Like obviously, I've built my whole life around it, and you know, I like it because it's a lightweight, inexpensive program. It's just enough. It's a total 3D. It's just enough 2D. It does everything I need. And I would say, you know, hey, if you're designing, you know, giant convention centers and casinos in Las Vegas, maybe you want to consider Revit because it counts all your doors and hardware and does all these other things. I simply don't need those features, and I don't want to I don't want to have to learn them. I don't want to have to like, you know, hide them and get them out of the way. SketchUp and layout is such a clean, lightweight, fast system for residential and light commercial, in my opinion. It's exactly what I need. So, I'm always trying to express that. I'm a fan. So, nice. All right. Well, I guess it's past lunchtime here in Denver, so I suppose I'm gonna get to it. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, and watch out, you know, for the next one. Probably in about 2-3 weeks, I'll have something else to show you guys, and I will see you then.